Whenever you think of the AFC South, there are countless directions that you can go when thinking about this division. You can think of the Trevor Lawrence-led Jaguars and the very bright future they have. You can think of Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, who by the way has resurrected his career since arriving in Tennessee, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones all on the field at one time together, Carson Wentz reuniting with his former offensive coordinator where he had an MVP caliber year in 2017 in Frank Reich, and you can think of the Texans, who don't have a very bright outlook to say the least in 2021 and beyond. Now in today's video, as we have done with 3 other divisions so far, we are going to be previewing each and every team's 2021 outlook. Now I do want to say as a quick disclaimer, I am going to be previewing the Texans 2021 season with Deshaun Watson as the team's starting quarterback. Now we're going to get into more of not just Deshaun Watson, but the whole Texans roster and everyone else's roster and outlook for their season for that matter. But before we dive into the AFC South, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And as always, we go from worst to first based on last year's standing, so not surprisingly with the AFC South, we are starting off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I am not going to make this entire segment about Trevor Lawrence because there are 52 other players on this roster, but what I want to say about Trevor and his expectations for this year are to gradually get better. Now, Trevor, yes, he is almost the perfect prospect. He has been the solidified #1 overall pick since Clemson won a championship a few years ago, which he was the starter on that team. So although Trevor was the best prospect probably since Andrew Luck, he will still have rookie moments the same way Andrew did. Andrew did not come in and throw 45 touchdowns to 0 interceptions as a rookie and have the Colts go from the 1st overall pick to the 32nd overall pick in one season, and neither will Trevor Lawrence. I know this is groundbreaking information here, but Trevor's goal for this season is to gradually get better. Now, I don't think Trevor will have a Justin Herbert type year because Herbert had a very historic rookie season, and one thing that could, I don't want to say derail Trevor's career because Trevor is obviously a very good football player, but one thing that will potentially affect Trevor down the road is if he does not have a good rookie season or, a great hyped up rookie season the same way Justin Herbert had, then the pressure may very well be on him, but as we've seen time and time again, that Trevor delivers in the clutch. Anyways, with the rest of the Jaguars roster, I love a lot of the players on this team, more specifically James Robinson and Travis Etienne. Those two talented young players are going to be critical for not only their 2021 season, but for their long term as well, as in the next 3 to 4 years. James Robinson was an undrafted free agent who went for 1,400 total yards as a rookie in 2020, and then the Jags drafted offensive weapon Travis Etienne with their other first-round pick in the 2021 draft. Now, Jacksonville has other weapons than those 3 players, and I really do like their top 2 receivers in DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. I think Laviska has a lot of potential that we didn't see get unleashed in his rookie season, as the Jags were the #1 overall pick for a reason. They had the #1 pick for a reason, and I do think Laviska with Trevor will be a lethal combination, and Laviska is honestly heading into 2021 as a very underrated player. Now, a lot of people know DJ Chark, but a lot of people outside of the draft community do not know Laviska Shenault. So I do think he will be a very good player in not only 2021, but for the future as well. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I do love the pass rushing duo of Kayvon Chaisson and Josh Allen, back-to-back first-round picks for the Jags, and of course, other 2020 first-round pick corner CJ Henderson. It's going to be a lot of development for these guys this year. Certainly the Jags, and I would imagine they're not expecting to go 20-0 and run the table this year, but I do think it is a lot about rebuilding. They had the #1 pick for a reason, and it is about making progress over the course of the season. A successful season for the Jags, I do think, would culminate in 6 to 8 wins this year, and I do not think they make the playoffs, but again, it is for the long-term rebuild and not just the 2021 season alone. So now we are on to the Houston Texans, and again, I said we are projecting this assuming Deshaun Watson is playing, and if Deshaun Watson is not playing, then honestly, this is a maximum, probably a 2 to 3 win team, and even with Deshaun in this projection and outlook, it's not much more than that. The Texans went 4-12 in 2020, and that was with Deshaun having to date the best year of his career. He led the league in passing yards. He had an impressive 33-7 touchdown to interception ratio. He had just 7 interceptions on over 540 passing attempts for a percentage of 1.3, which is very good. And the Texans still finished 3rd in the division and finished with the 3rd worst record in the league. So simply put, this is not a good football team. And a lot of you guys, and I'm assuming most of you guys, everyone knows that. But if Deshaun does not play, let's just keep it real for a second. Davis Mills or whoever is not going to be, Tyrod Taylor even, is not going to be what Deshaun Watson was in 2020, which, by the way, was still a top 5 to top 6 at worst quarterback in the NFL, and they only massed together 4 wins. So if Deshaun does not play, this team could very well go winless. And even with him playing, they're certainly not going to be a playoff team. There's only so much coaching can do to help a player out. But when you don't have the caliber of football players on your team that other teams do, well, simply put, you're not going to win a lot of games. And even if Deshaun Watson plays hero ball, which he will have to win games for this team in 2021 and probably 2022 for that matter, they're still not going to win a lot of games, and it's going to be a very rough couple of years for the Texans and their young franchise, but this is going to be the true bottom out for this team, even if Deshaun plays. And if they don't, then I honestly could see a winless season. There's very few winnable games for this team. The Jags at home, maybe the Jets at home, but other than that, maybe they stun a team, maybe if a team overlooks them, but again, this is going to be a very rough year for the Texans. Now we move on to the Indianapolis Colts, whose season ended in Buffalo last year with a wild card loss, and obviously we have to discuss Carson Wentz. And I don't know, and I don't think at least, if I gave my formal opinion on Carson Wentz in 2021 and how he will do for the Colts and being reunited with Frank Reich, but my honest opinion is we will see a version closer to 2017 Carson Wentz than what we have seen before, other than that year. Aside from that, it's been a bit of a roller coaster for Carson Wentz. There's been some good moments and there's been some woeful moments, to say the least, where he tries to play hero ball when he doesn't need to, right? But there were times in 2020 where the Eagles and Doug Peterson and the play calling just set him up for failure. It was just not good at times. And what I want to most reiterate and emphasize here is players are employees and coordinators and coaches are the managers of the team. And obviously the GM is the GM and so on up the ladder, right? But what I want to most reiterate here is Tom Brady would not succeed as much as he does running the read option and running option plays like Lamar Jackson does. And Lamar, like Tom Brady, would not succeed as much in Tampa as he does in Baltimore. You just can't have players running systems and running other plays that they are, I don't want to say comfortable with, because you need to be uncomfortable to a degree, but you're not going to have Tom Brady out there running the option with Leonard Fournette. It's just not going to happen, and there were times where Carson Wentz was just set up for failure by the coaching in Philadelphia. Now, I do think that will be much improved in Indy, and that's a big reason why I think that he will succeed a lot more in Indy than he did the past 3 years in Philadelphia. Now, will he get back to 2017 Carson is another question, because that year could very well prove to be an anomaly for him, but I do think he will at minimum improve. I mean, it's hard to get worse than what he was in 2020 to be fair, but I don't think he will necessarily get the whole way back to 2017. Now, I do think Carson is a very good starter. He has very good traits. He has very good weapons and to work with in Indy, and of course an offensive line that, most quarterbacks dream of. So there's really no reason for Carson to not succeed this year, and if he doesn't, then, well, it was not a good trade for the Colts. But anyways, I do think he will play well. Of course, big Quentin Nelson will look to be 4 for 4 in terms of 4 years and 4 first-team All-Pros. And of course, I do think Jonathan Taylor will succeed a lot this year, and he will be at minimum a 1,200-yard back. Now, of course, the Colts have another side of the ball that has players like DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, Julian Blackmon, and Kenny Moore, and they are a very good defense, and they will be honestly a pretty underrated defense, because you don't hear a lot about the Colts defense and how good they are, because simply put, you hear more of the offense and how will Carson Wentz do in 2021. I do think the Colts are a very underrated team heading into the year. I think they are a dark horse, ironically, given that the Colt is a horse anyway. I think they are a dark horse to make a deep run. Now, can they actually go to the Super Bowl this year is something else entirely, but I would not be surprised at all if they were in the AFC Championship game, or at minimum did what they did to the Bills last year and give them an absolute run for their money and have them on the ropes. So all in all, for the 2021 Colts, I think a playoff berth is certainly intact, and how far they will go is to be determined. And now we are on to the Tennessee Titans. So with the Titans, there are other players than the big four you consistently hear about, and we are going to discuss the other said players first. So let's start with the draft. They had Caleb Farley and Dylan Radins, and I absolutely loved the Caleb Farley selection, and I realize there is a bit of an injury risk, but again, he may miss a season and then be back, or he may not even miss a full season and be playing, so I do like that. It definitely panned out for the Titans with Jeffrey Simmons, and if they can get Caleb Farley to pan out, then it will prove to be a very good selection. Now, they also took Dylan Radins, a project tackle, like the selection. They are admitting with this selection, by the way. A tackle, Isaiah Wilson from the 2020 draft, is a complete bust, and he should honestly be mentioned with the biggest busts in NFL history. But back to this season, I do like the Titans' outlook. It's hard not to like the Titans' outlook. With Ryan Tannehill, who, by the way, has resurrected his career since becoming a member of the Tennessee Titans, along with 2,000-yard rusher Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones. And this relates to a conversation I had recently with somebody, and it basically goes, who do you choose to stop? Do you want to double team Julio? Go ahead. Then we'll just throw it to A.J. Brown, or just pound it up the gut with Derrick Henry. You want to have 8 in the box to try and stop the run? Okay, choose which 3 players are going to guard and try and stop A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And that doesn't even include tight end Anthony Firkser, who is no slouch in his own rights. So there is so many weapons on this offense, and not surprisingly, with these type of weapons, I am going to pick the Titans to win the division. Their defense isn't atrocious. It's definitely not, 85 Bears by any means, but it's not atrocious either, and I am not going to bet against those 4 weapons, especially with the way Ryan Tannehill has played over the past couple of years. So with Carson Wentz and the Colts, I do think they will finish second in the division, followed by Trevor and the Jags, and then the Texans rounding up the rear. But I do want to say I would not be surprised, so Colts fans, just because I didn't have you guys finishing first in the division, I would not be surprised if the Colts win the division. I'm just simply not going to bet on them with the uncertainty of Carson Wentz. Granted, I said I think he will play good, but at this point he is a bit of a question mark, and with that being said, I do think the Titans will win the division, and honestly, again, it wouldn't surprise me with them if they go to the AFC Championship game. We saw them go 2 years ago, and they are a very good team, as are the Colts. So anyways, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world. We are quickly closing in on 25,000, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. And until next time, have a great day, have a great weekend. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.